Good evening. It is I, Chase, and I'm gonna do a review. I decided. So, I made a sort of a pledge a couple years ago to no longer support Disney and its endeavors, as it were. I would consider them demonic endeavors. So, I canceled my Disney Plus subscription, and that was years ago, and I had not renewed it ever since, and really just honestly did not feel like I was missing anything. So, especially given all the stuff that Disney had come out with in the following years, in the last couple of years, hearing all the reviews I had heard about these movies, going, yeah, that definitely was a an investment or like a money well saved, I guess you might say. So I was like, it just based on all the stuff that's coming out, like I'm not missing anything. So there you go. So it's just garbage after garbage after garbage. Disney just setting fire and ablaze to Star Wars. Excuse me. I still have this dry cough that I'm dealing with from being sick last week. So there you go with that. But so now Ahsoka comes out, the Ahsoka series, and I just decided because here's the real reason. So let me just, as the background of all of this, why I'm doing this, why I decided to go ahead and get Disney Plus again. Which, by the way, I actually did it on a different email, so I'm not actually paying any money right now for the subscription. It's like after a week, so I'm gonna try to watch every single episode within that week and then just cancel it, so I don't pay for anything. Hopefully, if I have time, if not, a couple bucks for October, I paid whatever. It's really not all that significant, to be honest. But I'm definitely not going to be keeping that subscription. I'm just watching the Ahsoka series. Like, that's it. I don't care about anything else. Um, so, but I've been, the reason why I'm doing this is because I had been watching critics like the Critical Drinker, Nerdrotic, people like this on YouTube, and their critiques of the show, and they're just laying into the show completely. And part of me went because what I'm seeing is there especially in the Ahsoka series, there are like, if you it's just like politics. If you just pay attention to left wing politics, the right is either taking over the world and we're all doomed, or the right is, just they're all in a scramble. They don't know what to do, and they're all falling apart. And it's the same thing on the right. If all you're doing is paying attention to the right wing political propaganda, it's the left is just they're all either taking over the world or they're scrambling and they don't know what to do. Things like that. Point is that when you just pay attention to one side's criticisms or their comments and their opinions, it's very easy to think that that is the norm. It's easy to manipulate people, and again, both sides do it. And I think it's the same thing in the culture wars. Both sides are engaged in forms of propaganda of some shape or form, manipulation of their base and whatever. So when it comes to the Ahsoka series, you have these two sides. You have one side, honestly, of fans who are like, "Oh, I love the show. The show is great. It's so awesome. It's like the best thing that happened to Star Wars in a long time." And that's when you have the other side, the critics, who are like, "This show sucks. It's horrible. It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. Blah blah blah." So you have those guys. And so I decided, part of me went, what if the show is good? What if it is a good show? What if it actually is pretty good? And I'm just allowing guys like the Critical Drinker, who I respect, to shape my opinion on it and just decide immediately before watching it, it's just garbage and it's hot garbage. Don't even spend time watching it, whatever. And I started thinking, it's like, because I've seen clips of the show, and they looked kind of interesting. They looked kind of interesting what they were doing with some of the characters, which I'll get to here in a moment. So I was like, you know what? Maybe what's going on here, maybe, guys like the Critical Drinker, with they and Nerdrotic crew, Midnight's Edge, they've been so absolutely betrayed for years, and all their favorite shows or franchises just getting destroyed by wokeness, which is true. That they have got such a hatred for it now, that because it's like when that new movie that's supposed to be coming out here, which looks kind of interesting, from Zack Snyder. It's coming out right to Netflix. The Rebel Moon looks kind of interesting. I mean, it doesn't look crazy cool. I mean, but it looks fairly original, which is kind of what I'm looking for. I think it's what we're all looking for, something original. Stop, let's just let all these old franchises just rest. They've done their part in giving us the culture that we have today. Let's just let them just rest in peace. Why can't we just do that, And we can't seem to do that. We gotta just completely run them into the ground. So we're all looking for something a little bit different. But even watching that, like I watched the Neurotic Crew's reaction to the trailer, and you could tell, the female lead character, and they're like, "Oh, here we go again," and part of me was like, this is a result of constant female lead tropes of the last couple of years. I mean, dude, tropes usually take a decade or two to finally get so old that, all right, let's try something new. But the left the woke crowd has been able to make a trope so tropey within just the span of like 5 years that we all just are just sick and tired of it immediately. It's like that's impressive, It's not a compliment, by the way, but that is impressive that you can do that. And that is, of course, the female lead trope. I mean, just talk about just running something just completely into the ground. It's not like a plane that's just like, all right, we're up, we're doing good, and then just like, okay, we're running out of gas, we're slowly coming down, we're slowly descending. All right, it's time to just basically call this puppy home and just no, this is just straight up, it just blows up and just it's just up in flames instantly, like nothing left, just flames and just a big old fireball just consuming a forest, and just destroying the city. So that's what they did with the female lead trope. I mean, ran it into the ground so hard that now every time we see female lead stuff, everybody cringes, because we're like, oh, this is gonna be another one of these stupid things. Oh, here we go again. And I don't think that's good. See that, because female lead, I still think, can be done right. It's just the wokeness just absolutely, again, just blew it up completely. These people don't know anything about making a good story. So anyways, I'm ranting on. But so what I decided to do is I'm gonna watch the show. I'm gonna watch it. I'm going to bite the bullet and get a Disney subscription to watch this show. And I want to, one, my own opinion on it. And number two, if I'm going to have criticisms, I want them to be a little bit more leveled. Not just kind of like, this is just, again, the guys are just like, this is just the most ridiculous bleeping crap, and it's just garbage. It's just, like, try to be a little bit more, like, instead of just beating a dead horse, why not try to offer some form of constructive criticism of, and it's like, it's like scripture, God does not take pleasure in the death of the wicked. It's almost like we're right now, we're just like, we take pleasure in the death of the wicked. We wanted to kill them all, just not I'm not saying literally, but like scorched earth kind of stuff like that. I want to have that attitude of like, I don't take pleasure in the death of the wicked. In other words, I don't take pleasure in disliking this or that or blah blah blah. I think I showed a little bit of that when I reviewed the first episode of Rings of Power. I was intending to do the second one, but I honestly had no interest in going any further after episode 1 of the Rings of Power. It was just so boring. I did not care about any of the characters. The only two characters whose name I knew was Galadriel and Elrond. That was it. Didn't know anybody else, and I did not care about anybody else. Excuse me. And even Galadriel and Elrond in the show weren't even interesting. Didn't care about them. So I just could not get to episode 2. Never got to it. I was again that tells you how bad a show is. Like a show is just not that great when you can't get somebody to want to watch the next day. Like I've binge watched shows before that go like when the first episode ends, I'm like, I have to see what happens next, and I will just. One time, man, I just stayed up to like 2 in the morning, which was a bad idea because it was actually Arcane League of Legends. I was like up till 2 in the morning watching the next episode. And I was like, I gotta work in the morning. It's just, oh my gosh, this is gonna be a really rough morning for me because this show is so good. Like I was just hooked. Like I had to know what was gonna happen next. I mean, they just had the perfect cliffhangers, made you want to watch the next one instantly. This show, like Rings of Power, like nope, don't care. I do not care. But still, even with that, when I gave my criticisms of episode 1, I think I showed fairly honestly that I don't take pleasure in this. I want to like it. I really want to enjoy it. Make me like your show. And I personally don't think I demand much. My mom thinks I do, but I don't think I demand much when I watch shows or movies. My mom thinks I ruin movies because I'm constantly like, there's a problem there, there's a problem there. I don't know. I just like to think that I have a high standard, and maybe I'm contradicting myself now, but I like good stories. And I think it's out of respect and love for good stories whenever I criticize something that's not good. And why whenever I make my own stories, as I am, I want to make sure they're good, and all that stuff. But I digress once again. So for this, I want to do the same thing. I want to, if I'm going to offer my criticisms, I don't want them to just be just like, this show's so dumb, it's so stupid, everybody's dumb in this show, it doesn't make any sense. But like go like, why? Just that, like maybe that kind of attitude. And that's my intention here. So now getting into the review itself. So watching the very first episode of Ahsoka, and I watched it last night from recording this video, and I was gonna make a review right afterwards while it was fresh on my mind, but I was so tired, I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna go to bed. I don't feel like doing this right now, so I didn't. And I'm making this one the next day, so it may not be totally fresh on my mind. Okay, so it was interesting because, and I gotta say, I liked this, but I also didn't like this, the way it opened, because I'll be honest, I thought it was gonna do the whole dun dun the classic Star Wars thing, and it didn't do that. It didn't do that at all. So I actually liked that because again, Star Wars, man, again, I'm sorry, it has been run into the ground at this point where now at the point where you see that logo and you're just like, here we go, yes, there's a logo thing again, the music, blah, blah, blah. Like that's a nostalgia moment I think has been just totally run into the ground. So it was kind of nice that they didn't do that again. I was completely expecting that, and they didn't do that. Now, I also didn't like it because the music that was playing didn't sound Star Warsy at all. It sounded really weird. I can't remember exactly, but it almost sounded like some kind of Zen thing or whatever, if I recall correctly. But maybe I was a little bit out of it. I was making dinner while I was watching it, so that might have been. I didn't even read the actual like prologue thing. Yeah, I didn't even read it because I was making dinner. I just glanced over it. I was like, oh look, it's red and it's not even doing a Star Wars thingy. Interesting. So I was gonna finish my dinner. I'm gonna burn it. All right. So I think it started with Balin and Shin going on to that, and I guess it's kind of like a throwback to episode 1 with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan going on that Federation ship to negotiate or something like that. I don't know, but I forgot exactly. It's been a while since I watched episode 1, but so I guess it was kind of something like that. So it was again, this is where I'm just kind of like I have an indifference to this. One of the weaknesses of the show so far is the dialogue. It's just it's just not interesting. But here's one of the, okay, this just hit me. So I guess the commander of the fleet, the Republic fleet here in this scene where Balin and Shin are coming in, and again, they're calling themselves Jedi. But when you just, I mean, you don't have to look at them very long to go, they ain't Jedi. That they ain't Jedi. Look at the way they're dressed. They're wearing dark clothes, their hood is covered like this. They don't want you to see their face, you know. It's like, Now I know Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon had cloaks over their head as well, but those were very clearly Jedi robes, you know. So these guys, no, there was none whatsoever. I mean, anybody could tell, yeah, those aren't Jedi. But when the commander goes, we don't see a Jedi here. He's like, well, I'm gonna go and check this out myself. And so when I hear this, when I basically hear him make the decision, I go, okay, so you got two people, mysterious people who honestly look kind of scary, not the kind of people you want to tango with. And your decision is to go down and confront them yourself. What do you think is going to happen? I mean, these are two people who probably are Force sensitive, probably are Sith, based on the way they're dressed. And your idea is going, I'm going to go walk right up to these two people and just tell them, you're not Jedi. I see right through you. Yeah. What's your plan after that? I mean, that's that's kind of like walking up to some guy who's like 2-3 times bigger than you and spitting in his face. Now what? What's your plan now? If I was that commander, I'd be looking on the cameras, be like, those aren't Jedi. Let's just arrest them immediately, and bring them, disarm them, and bring them to an interrogation room. Now, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna walk right up to them, and I'm gonna show them who's boss. Yeah, that's gonna go really well. So when that happened, I was just like, come on. I mean, it just not very smart. And this guy's supposed to be the commander of this. Like, I wouldn't want to be on that guy's command. Again, that is a bit dumb. But then the part where Balin's, allowing me to tell you who we really are, and I was like, okay, that's. I just think you could have come up with something a little bit more interesting and creative than that. And then he goes, "You're right about one thing, Commander. We are no Jedi." And I'm like, again, I think you could probably come up with something a little bit more interesting than that line. I'll just say Balin and Shin are the most interesting characters in this entire show. I think that they are the most interesting ones. Which is kind of sad because they're supposed to be bad guys. At least that's the perception. Some of the stuff I've been seeing is indicating that's a bit of a bait and switch. And again, I think the on the nose comments of, let me show you who we really are. We're not really Jedi. I think those feel like really kind of like on the nose comments that are like some form of irony. I know Balin apparently used to be a Jedi and he's not anymore, but again, I'm not so sure. There's definitely something else going on, and I just don't think. Again, everybody kind of sees it, which tells me you're not really doing a good job of covering up the plot twist. Again, so there you go. Now again, we get to Ahsoka, and of course she's so Shin and Balin break out this lady who's like a witch or something like that. I forgot her name. And they bust her out. That's why they were on the ship. And they bust her out, and there you go. They're gone. And Ahsoka, that's when we go to the Ahsoka scene, I think. And Ahsoka's looking for this map thing again. It's another one of these. Gotta find the map, which confuses me because the map is supposed to reveal Thrawn's location. First of all, I'm asking, how does a map of the location of Grand Admiral Thrawn end up in some weird ruined temple thing on a barren planet? Like, how does that happen? I don't know. The other thing too, I'm like, again, I haven't gotten this far in the show, so maybe I don't know. but it's supposed to reveal the location of Thrawn. And I'm like, but what if he moved? How does a map? A map is supposed to show you. It reveals to you like it's like again when you it's like if I just found a map to a treasure, right? A location of a treasure. Like, oh look, there's the dotted line and there's the X. You're supposed to go there. The treasure is most likely going to be there. Okay. Okay, but that's treasure because that's been deliberately hidden somewhere, and it's stationary and it's staying there. But here you're talking about a human, like, well, not a human being, but a living being that doesn't stay in one place. And in fact, he's got a big starship which can go places. So I'm like, how do you know when you get this thing, which is looks like it's been there for a while? So I'm pretty sure a lot of things have happened since then for Thrawn. How do you know that when you decipher this thing, that, and then he says, oh, that's where he is. Like, okay, well, how do we know that's where he is? Unless his ship crashed and he's stuck there, which raises another issue questions. How does the map, I don't know, how does it still know? Like, right, like again, the big question is, who made this thing and put it here, right? Somebody who wanted Thrawn to be found or something. So who did it? Again, maybe I'm missing. Maybe I haven't just gotten that information from the rest of the show, and I'm going to get it later on. Maybe it was made by somebody else who was like, okay, if I need to find Thrawn, I got this map here, or Thrawn again. It's a map that would only make sense if Thrawn is in one place and can't move from that place. So maybe he's crash landed or something like that somewhere. His ship is stuck on a planet, and the map, someone made a map to tell them where he was so they can go and find him. But then that begs the question, why didn't they just go and find him? And instead they just took this little, put the map in this little spherical thing and hide it in a temple somewhere and then block the ability to get to it unless you solve the puzzle. So again, I'm just like, it there's just all this. It's like when they're sitting there and they're writing this stuff, they go, well, we can't just give Ahsoka the map, which, okay, that makes sense. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have her go through, it's like this Indiana Jones thing where she's got to she's got to solve this puzzle, and then when she gets it, eventually she can't even decipher it. She got to get help to decipher it. But then she got to fight her way out because the droids come out of nowhere and like give us the map. I don't recall exactly who sent the droids, but again, I digress. But they're just there, and then they try to kill her, and then they blow themselves up. Which, by the way, I get sick of this thing. Like, I don't care how advanced you are in society, in technology. Those droids, their self-detonation protocol, because it is physically impossible for something of that size, which is probably a normal human size, to generate an explosion like that. You would have to have a massive amount of ordnance on you to the point where you just can't even move, or it's just kind of stupid. It's just simply, you can't make a bomb as big as this that goes and just blows up this whole building I'm in. No, this will just kind of, that's it, because it literally can't contain the necessary ingredients to make a big boom like that. It can't do that. An explosion like that, okay? It's just physical, and yet these guys, when they self-detonate, it's like a nuclear bomb just went off. It's got this big old mushroom cloud and everything, just massive shockwave. Again, I'm sorry to be nitpicky here, but you see the shockwave when Ahsoka's running as it blows up. Again, the shockwave is cool. Like that's realistic. That's what would probably happen. Problem is that shockwave is a concussive blast. You don't get hit by a concussive blast and just keep running, especially if you're that close to a massive explosion like that, which is a nuclear bomb. That's not just 2, 3, 4 average-sized robots that just detonate like that. Those detonations would just be like a grenade going off. Just that's it. and just shrapnel flying all over the place. Not a massive just blow and just level everything within like a mile. Like that is physically impossible. Okay, you can't. That's just not something you can possibly do. All right. But again, the concussive blast that hits Ahsoka flies past her. You're getting, at the very minimum, you are getting a big time concussion. You're stumbling to the ground. If you're probably getting knocked out, your lungs have probably been just ruptured completely. You're probably bleeding out of your ears. It's not a pleasant thing, a concussive blast, and that's why they call it a concussion blast. You remember that Beirut explosion? The Beirut explosion, that like completely just vaporized, pretty much, incinerated the building that all those explosives were on. But you remember that big old shockwave? That's the concussive blast. That went for miles. People from miles away from that thing were severely injured by the concussive blast. They weren't anywhere close to the explosion. It was that shockwave that just like, it's like a concussive blast is, the way I can describe it is like this, because I've felt it before. Just think about it like this: somebody punches you as hard as they possibly can, right in the chest, and in your ears at the same time. That's what a concussive blast feels like. And Ahsoka is like no more than like, I'm trying to think. I'm bad with measurements, but oh my gosh, she can't be more than 100 meters, maybe 200 meters from that explosion. That's gonna mess you up. I don't care how superpowery Jedi you are. That's gonna mess you up big time. You're not just running back to your ship. You're having, if at the very least, you're having your droid guy dragging you back onto that ship and taken to immediate, healthcare or whatever. But I know they did it. They did it because it looks cool. It's like, the shockwave looks really cool and whatever. But none of it makes really any sense at the end of the day. So I'm watching this. I'm like, okay, I think we just overdid it a little bit with the explosion. First of all, there's just no way things of that size, with no evidence of having any ordnance on them whatsoever. Again, these are skinny robots. If their core detonates, it's just going to blow up and it's going to send their pieces flying all over the place. That's it, like a grenade. So okay, that's not going to happen. First of all, second of all, if that does happen, and that concussive blast, which you see flies right by Ahsoka, you're out, man. You're going to the hospital, and you're going to be there for a while. Those are just things that, and you might say to me, well, Chase, are you going to have that kind of realism in your story? Yes, I am. You can ask my editor. She's read some of my stories already. Like, even just the sound of gunshots in buildings affect people in the story. They're like, oh, because I've heard gunshots inside without hearing protection. Not a pleasant sound. Okay, your ears are ringing. Concussive blast. It disorients you. And that happens in my story. People get disoriented from gun blasts, explosions. They hurt not just because you were directly at the site of the explosion, but you got hit by the concussive blast. Anyways, spent way too much time on that. But so there's that, which was a scene that kind of was just, again, I just think they made that scene the way it was because, okay, we just got to make this interesting somehow. But never really asked the question, does this even make any sense? And I'm like, it doesn't really make sense in the end. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Why does this map even exist? Who made this map? Why would they make a map on Thrawn's location, assuming he's going to stay in that location for whatever reason? Why would they do that? And like, if there's somebody who wants to go find Thrawn, why would they need to make a map and then hide it? Why don't you already know where he is, so just go find him. Again, why would you hide it in a temple? I don't know. But you find out that Ahsoka, I guess, interrogated this lady that Shin and Balin rescued from the Republic ship. That Ahsoka, I guess, was interrogating her. Now, Ahsoka doesn't reveal how she interrogated her. Doesn't reveal it. But, so this is another part where she's talking to her robot buddy. Again, I don't know these characters. I've never watched Rebels. I didn't watch any of these. And that's one of the problems with the show, unfortunately. It assumes that you got the background knowledge of all these things. I personally don't. and I think most people don't who watch it. So that's one of the issues there. But so her robot co-pilot dude, um, um, they're talking and stuff like that, and Ahsoka reveals that this lady that she's been interrogating, um, and she's the reason why Ahsoka knew of the map, where to find the map. So I guess Ahsoka got the information out of her somehow. How, we don't really know. But then she reveals that she knows something about Thrawn or whatever, like she's hiding something. And I'm thinking to myself, so you were able to get the map, but you weren't able to get everything else out of her. I guess that makes sense. I mean, that could make sense. Sure. It just seemed a little bit strange because it almost like she was implying she used like a Jedi mind trick on her or something like that. I don't know. Which, if that's the case, why not use the Jedi mind trick on whatever else she's hiding? I don't know. But that was just one little thing I saw that was kind of interesting. But here's the other thing. So again, the Twi'lek character who's green. I don't know her name because I didn't watch the shows. But again, it assumes you know who she is. She's a friend of Ahsoka's. I have no idea their backstory. So there you go. Which is okay, fine, whatever. And so when Ahsoka comes to her and lands her ship and meets her and whatever, this Twi'lek was, I guess, part of the fleet that was harboring that prisoner lady that Balin and Shin freed. Tells Ahsoka the news that it looks like we lost track of your prisoner. Like a casual thing, like, oh, by the way, we lost a prisoner that you were getting all that important information on. I just thought you should know that. Just, oh, okay. Anyways, like they didn't even. Ahsoka doesn't even freak out. She doesn't go like, what? Like just. Okay, all right. I mean, it seemed to be giving me the impression that she wasn't really all that important, which is weird because two Sithy characters went to get her out. I would think that if you sent that kind of envoy or whatever group to go free her, it seems like at least to your enemies, she's kind of important. Maybe you should take that seriously. But no, who cares? Well, that's a bummer. Ahsoka just treats it just completely casually. I'm just thinking I'm like, what, that's not serious? I would think that's a little bit serious. But that's one of the problems of the show. And you see it with Sabine, and again, another character who I know is in Rebels, but I really don't know her backstory at all. Sabine is supposed to be at this sort of memorial for Ezra. But I guess everybody assumes Ezra's dead because I guess he sacrificed himself to kill Thrawn. So I guess Sabine's struggle is Ezra. I guess she's really close to Ezra, saw him as a big brother or something like that, and she feels like any memorial service or celebration of Commander Ezra is pointless because he's dead, and so for her, so she's supposed to be at this memorial service of this statue in commemoration of him, but she's not there, and instead she's off on a speeder driving out to the middle of nowhere on what I guess is supposed to be a highway, which is completely empty. It's kind of weird. It just seems like a very vacant city, anyways, but the thing is like there's this music playing. It's like all this like she's a tough chick kind of music, stuff like that, like a punk rock sort of thing. But like you see her on her little speeder and she looks bored out of her mind. She just doesn't look like she's actually like, I would think you at least, because again, I know what they're trying to do. You're introducing a character and you're trying to immediately, when you introduce a character, you have to show the audience really quickly what this character's like, what they're about. So you have to do something to get the audience to understand what this character's like. So okay, we get this idea. We're supposed to be getting this idea that Sabine is like this like super awesome chick, rebellious, does her own thing, kind of whatever, and she's a little bit out there, a little bit crazy, kind of thing like that. But she's just kind of just like on her speeder. You don't see her at least kind of just like, this is way better than being at that place, just enjoying herself. Like, you could have at least had some traffic on there, and then she's just like weaving through it, and just looking for some kind of excitement or whatever. And like that's her escape. Like, again, these are things you could have done, which would have made it way more interesting. She looks bored, and so like her attitude does not fit the music at all. I'm just like, this is taking me out of the scene. I'm sorry, it's taking me right out of the scene. And then those two ships, or not ships, those two jets come find her, and I'm assuming the guy she's talking to, via communicator, he's like flying next to her. He's telling her, hey, we've been set to come get you. You got to come back. I can't let you go. And I'm assuming they know each other. I don't know. But she's like, no. And his partner flies way ahead of her, stops on the road to basically stop Sabine, force her to stop. And Sabine basically does this little maneuver where she goes like right underneath the jet, or the fighter, and just keeps going. And they're both the fighter pilots are like, oh my gosh, she's crazy. And I guess the idea is you're supposed to get the idea that she's a little bit crazy, a little bit nutty, whatever. Okay, it's a little bit on the nose, but all right. And then she tells the guy, she's like, she basically tells him, I'm not going back. And he just kind of goes, okay. And just, he just lets her go. And I'm just like, okay, I guess you're going to have to come up with some story to your superior why you lost her. I'm pretty sure he's not going to hear that you went and said, like he sent you to go get her and bring her back. And then you went and you were like, and you gotta tell me, I was right next to her and I was like, you gotta pull over. My partner tried to stop her and she didn't stop it. And I was like, you gotta turn around. And then she was like, I'm not going back. And I was just like, all right. I mean, and there was like this moment, this happened like twice, at least 2 times in the show. Both scenes involving Sabine. And this one, it was Sabine staring at the guy, he's staring back. And it literally like goes back and forth between the two of them for like 10 seconds, and nobody's saying anything. I'm just sitting there like, what? Am I missing something? What's going on here? There's no dialogue. They're just staring at each other. Like, is there some kind of telepathic conversation going on that I'm not even aware of? I mean, they're just looking at each other. And the next time that it happens is when Ahsoka comes back to the planet and Sabine meets her again. Again, I never watched Rebels, I never watched any of the shows, so I have no idea the context of why there's tension between Sabine and Ahsoka. I have no idea why. But they meet for the first time, and I guess for a long time. I guess Ahsoka was originally supposed to be training Sabine, and that didn't work out, something like that, whatever. And Sabine's kind of takes it personally, whatever. But they look at each other, and they just stare at each other. I'm not kidding, for like 10 seconds. They're just staring at each other. There's no conversation going on. And I'm just going, what is happening here? Again, I'm sorry, but this is just like, dude, there's got to be some kind of dialogue. And then when there is dialogue, it's not even that interesting. It's just, I forgot exactly what they said, but Ahsoka was just like, again, there's no, if there's tension going on, you need to reveal that in the scene. You don't reveal that by the two of them just staring at each other. Have Sabine say something snarky or whatever. I mean, she eventually does, but that's kind of like later on. So I'm just like, you can't just, this is awkward. You can't just have that in there. It's weird. It takes people out of the show. It took me right out of the show. I'm just like, can we have some conversation going on here? There's like no character development going on at all. And that's another one of the problems is Ahsoka is just like super chill and laid back. She's like Brie Larson's Captain Marvel character. Just like almost no emotion. She's just always in a chill mood. Even when she's talking to that general, that Twi'lek general, like that's how she is. When Twi'lek general told her that the prisoner escaped, just totally chill, not bothered by it at all. I just feel like why is it with these modern writers. I, it's like I said with the Rings of Power. My gripe with the Rings of Power, I don't understand. I want to understand. Please help me understand. I don't understand why you guys are so afraid to give your strong female lead characters freaking emotion, man. Give them some kind of emotion. Like, oh, we gave that to Sabine, yeah, well, that was later in the show when the episode she got stabbed in the chest, which looked like it was like actually in the liver, by the way. You don't just recover from that, which apparently she does. So that's like right there, like right where the liver's at. Do we even human anatomy anymore? I don't know. So getting a lightsaber right through the liver might do you in. But anyways, okay, so there. But like throughout the scenes where they're talking or whatever, like emotion is important there too, and there's like none of it. And I'm just look. The reason you're supposed to have that in there is to show the human side of these characters. And so when you don't do that, it's a little bit hard to connect with the characters. I just kind of feel like that's basic writers 101. When I write my characters, I want to make sure that they're human. They have emotions, whether they're male or female. Sometimes they are cool. They're not bothered, and they're just having a calm conversation. Other times, they're on the verge of flipping out. I mean, they're just like, just freaking out. That stuff happens to everybody. So, I mean, you gotta have that in these characters. And that's why, sadly, Balin and Shin are like the most interesting characters for me. Even Shin, when when you see her fight, both times you see her fight, there's emotion there. That she gives you this look like I'm gonna take your head off. Like that's what she looks at you like, and that's emotion. That makes that character real, and that's why I just think she's a more interesting character than the other characters I've seen so far. So I guess this is basically episode 1. Again, I'm sure there's a lot more to talk about, but I just forgot about the lightsaber duel at the end with Shin. Kind of boring, to be honest. It's sad to me when I look back at the old Star Wars duels from episode 1 through 6. These, and I'm just gonna say, episode 1 had the best Star Wars duels of any Star Wars. The fights with Darth Maul were like unbelievable. To this day, just absolutely incredible fight scenes, because there was like, it was almost like if I can say it this way, there was like a level of worship of the Jedi duel, the duel between the Jedi and the Sith. There's like a level of reverence about it that like, we want to make this just awesome. That today it's like, they don't even care about. And I wonder if it has anything to do with like modern storytelling, where we're trying to make just interesting characters more than we are trying to make interesting fights. And I'm thinking to myself, why can't you do both? Why not both? Why not have characters that are interesting and then engage in fight scenes that are also really cool? But it's like they're trying to make the Jedi, like there's just almost no effort put into the choreography of these Jedi fights. You see the quick camera angles, they're kind of really close to them as they're fighting, so it's like hard to tell what's really going on. And I that tells me that there just wasn't a ton of choreography done with it. So they just took like kind of small clips here and there, put them all together, because they just didn't put the time in to make, like, again, when you watch the Darth Maul fights, incredible choreography. You have wide camera angles that are just like you see everything going on, because they put a lot of time into those choreography of those, and so they felt confident that those are going to look sweet on camera that is not constantly switching all over the place, and just like confusing the audience. But I don't think they had that here, because they didn't spend a lot of time on these scenes. I think you can just tell in the fight themselves, they're just kind of like just basic stuff, nothing really interesting going on. No jumps, no flips, no attempts to use the Force to take the advantage of the other. Well, not really. Again, no creative ways of using the Force. Just stuff we've seen before. Anyways, but it just shows that there's just not a whole lot of focus and effort put into these fight scenes, and to me that's kind of sad. It's just very, very disappointing. So, again, that's episode one. And by the way, the way Sabine solved the map thing, maybe I missed it, but I didn't understand what she did. To be honest, I didn't get it. Maybe I'm thick in the head or something like that. It could be me. I'm perfectly willing to accept that. But I will just say, when I think about these things, these maps and whatever, it's like the whole, hidden a door hidden behind a bookshelf thing. You just pull the right book, and the door opens, and there's your hidden room or whatever. It's like one of those. Every time I see something like that, I'm like, so it's supposed to be hidden. But what if somebody just walking along in the library, and they just happen to pull that book? And it's kind of like this. It's like, so what happens if somebody just did what she just did and just moved a few pieces on it, and then boom, oh, there it is. I just found it wrong. And again, it was like so predictable. I'm sorry, it was just so predictable when Ahsoka has the map thing, gives it to that Twi'lek general, and she goes, "All right, let's open this thing and let's find out." Surprise, surprise! The droid says, "Oh, we can't because it's locked by some special encryption." Who would have saw that coming? Again, we've done this stuff before, guys. It's just so. Can we just please do something else at least? I don't think it's that hard. I got ideas that I would want to explore, and you can do it with these characters too. It doesn't have to be a totally different cast. So episode one was just kind of like. So far, my impression of the show is this show could be really good. Like, it has the potential. The plot isn't terrible so far. There's just a lot of things in it that it's very clear they didn't think through very much. So it's not terrible. It's got potential, but it's just, it's sad to me because, again, based on what I've seen about Shin, she seems really interesting. I'd be interested to see if she has a redemption arc. I love redemption arcs. I'm like, man, I hope they get more seasons and they do better writing so that we can maybe see that redemption arc take place. But I don't know if we are. If the ratings that I've seen are true. I don't know how true they are. It seems like a lot of people like the show. So I'm sure it's still going to get at least a season 2. But it's just like, man, it's just sad to watch such potential just kind of get wasted. And I like Ahsoka too. I like the character Ahsoka. I did watch some of the Clone Wars. I didn't watch all of it, but I watched some of it. It was just like, because I started getting into it when it was like all out, like all like the seasons were all done and everything like that. And I was like, man, I think I don't have time to binge watch all this stuff. So I just never did fully watch everything. But I still liked Ahsoka as a character. And so, I was partially excited when we first saw her in The Mandalorian. I think it was season 2. But here she's just kind of like, not really all there. Like, she's just not there emotionally, it's just, but yeah, those are my thoughts, on episode 1 of Ahsoka. I'm going to watch the next one here pretty soon and then give a review of it. And we'll just keep going from there. So, all right, there you go.